A lecherous man stared intently at the beautiful sight before him. The girl turned back and pulled her shirt down. A pair of enchanting eyes captivated the man's heart. The next second, the man couldn't control himself and moved in to kiss the girl. The girl dodged him, and the flame that had just been lit was extinguished. The man watched as the girl left, crying. Not long after, the girl accused the man of sexual harassment and received a sum of money as compensation for emotional distress. What was puzzling was that the man offered no explanation, silently agreeing to the settlement. The girl's name is Lucy, a university student on vacation, working a part-time job typing for authors. One of the writers she worked for was the famous Closer. Her daily work was incredibly simple, transcribing the words the writer spoke onto a computer. Closer's talent completely won Lucy over, but this was limited to admiration. However, Closer didn't see it that way. Lucy's admiring gaze pleased him, and he even interpreted Lucy accidentally revealing her underwear during a conversation as a hint meant for him. But he never acted on his baser instincts. Not only did he have a complete family, but he also had a reputation to uphold. The consequences and costs of having a mistress were not as simple as one might imagine. Over time, Lucy's relationship with Closer's family improved. Even Closer's youngest daughter, Corey, adored this beautiful and interesting older sister. Closer's wife was a former ballet dancer who, after a car accident, could never dance again. Since then, she had suffered from bipolar disorder, and the slightest displeasure would cause her to have an outburst. Fortunately, Closer had always been by her side, so their family life was considered relatively harmonious and happy. Putting aside his workplace temptations, Closer could be considered a model family man. He managed household chores, bathed his daughter, put her to sleep, and also provided for the entire family. Men who could do all that are rare. Therefore, he couldn't resist the temptation that presented itself. One day, Lucy arrived for work, as scheduled, and happened to see Closer's wife taking their daughter out to play. This created an opportunity for the two to be alone in the room. Lucy bent over to look at some reference materials, and in the process, accidentally exposed her cleavage. Seeing the beautiful sight before him, Closer's heart began to race. What followed was the scene from the beginning of the video. That evening, Closer's wife gave him no peace. She flew into a rage when their daughter was being mischievous. Seeing his wife's agitated state, Closer lied, saying that Lucy had quit. Lucy returned home in tears. Her strange behavior caught her mother's attention. Under her mother's repeated questioning, Lucy told her the truth. A lawyer advised them that in this situation, they could demand compensation for emotional distress. One day, Closer's wife received a letter containing the harassment complaint filed by Lucy. The lawyer advised Closer's wife to take her medication and try to control her emotions. She then cleaned the house as if nothing had happened. While bathing her daughter, Corey repeatedly asked for Lucy to come and play. The anger in Closer's wife's heart could no longer be contained. The mother and daughter began to have a fierce argument. In the chaos, Corey's head hit the side of the tub. Just like that, a little life left the world. Closer's wife looked calmly at her daughter lying in the bathtub, then emptied a bottle of pills. When Closer returned home, he found his wife unconscious on the bed. He quickly took out his phone to call for an ambulance, but then discovered the sexual harassment complaint on the table. Closer immediately understood that his wife had attempted suicide on purpose. He rushed to find his daughter, only to find her body in the bathtub. He cried out in anguish, filled with immense regret, but that couldn't change what had happened. This was the reason he said nothing on the day he compensated Lucy. Losing 2 family members in one day, no one could think about anything else. Lucy thought the matter would end there, but she happened to learn about the deaths in Closer's family. A strange feeling grew in her heart. To ease Lucy's troubled mind, her parents took the family on a vacation to the seaside, but Lucy felt no joy. While getting a drink, Lucy accidentally saw Closer. She thought she was hallucinating. Driven by curiosity, she secretly followed him. After he entered a small wooden cabin, she didn't dare to go any further. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? How could someone who just lost their family have the mood to come here on vacation? All of this felt a bit strange. Lucy composed herself and played with her younger sister on the sand. Not long after, the wind picked up, and large waves rolled in from the distance. She took her sister back to their room, not forgetting to wave to her brother, who was a lifeguard. Her brother was still checking the area to ensure no one would get into trouble at sea. Everyone sat in the room waiting for the sea to calm down, but Lucy's brother never returned. After the storm passed, a large crowd gathered on the beach. In the middle of the crowd was Lucy's brother. He had met with an accident. Lucy looked up and thought she saw the figure of Closer on the opposite side, but when she tried to get a better look, the person had vanished. She wasn't sure if it was just her imagination. The family held a funeral for her brother's remains. Afterward, Closer's style in his new work changed, becoming obsessed with a dark theme. Even the content had a clear shift. He said he had a muse for his inspiration. Looking at that face, Lucy felt a deep sense of unease. Lucy wanted to believe it was all a coincidence, but what happened next made her understand completely. It was her parents' wedding anniversary. Lucy was away at school, so she could only call to congratulate them. Her father was making dinner. After a short chat, Lucy hung up and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, she was awakened by the phone ringing. It was her older brother. He was in an ambulance. Their father had eaten poisonous mushrooms and was in a coma. Hearing the terrible news, Lucy rushed to the hospital. She learned from her older brother that their father hadn't survived, and their mother was in a deep coma. At best, she would be paralyzed. At worst, she would die. Lucy's mind went blank. She remembered talking about her family with Closer, and she had mentioned that her dad loved eating wild mushrooms. She knew Closer was taking revenge on her, but her older brother didn't believe what she said. Seeing Lucy's frantic and hysterical state, he had her sent for a psychiatric evaluation. In the end, Lucy stayed in a psychiatric hospital for 6 months. After she was released, a family of 6 was now just a family of 3, but Closer's revenge didn't stop there. One day, Lucy's older brother, who worked in a medical unit, was on his way back to the hospital. As he passed a barbecue shop, he was attacked by a thug and beaten to death. The reason given was that her brother had tried to harass a married woman. But Lucy knew her brother. He didn't even have a girlfriend, let alone try to steal someone's wife. Later, the investigation revealed that the attacker was a guest of the writer's house and a loyal reader of Closer. All of this was once again connected to Closer. Lucy went to her good friend Dave for help, hoping he could write about her experiences and publish them in the newspaper. Dave went to Closer's house to find out if what Lucy said was true, but he ended up leaving in anger after being provoked by Closer. Meanwhile, Lucy looked after her 18-year-old sister Anna every day. Anna's classmates often sent her messages. Lucy didn't tell her sister about everything that had happened. Anna had always seen her older sister as a mother figure, so she was always obedient. That evening, the 2 sisters went to the nursing home to visit their long paralyzed mother. They only left when the nursing home was about to close, but just as they reached the door, Lucy saw Closer's silhouette. She knew he was targeting her mother, so she called Dave to speed up the process. However, publishing the article required careful review, and Dave had no decision-making power. Soon after, a huge fire broke out at the nursing home. No one inside survived. Lucy confronted Dave, asking why he hadn't published the article. In the end, with no other choice, she could only return home in sorrow. Back home, Lucy called her sister down for dinner, only to find her in her room talking to a friend. Lucy now had only one relative left, her sister, so she was extremely concerned about everything related to her. She stood outside the door and listened, only to discover that her sister was a loyal reader of Closer and had recently interviewed him up close. Lucy was terrified. Sure enough, he wouldn't spare anyone in her family. He had finally set his sights on Anna. Distraught, Lucy went into the bathroom, took a sedative for her headache, but still couldn't think of a solution. In the end, she could only find Dave and ask him to help arrange an opportunity for her to confront Closer directly. Dave, carrying his press pass, took Lucy to Closer's book launch. Dave approached Closer, surrounded by people, and said that Lucy wanted to talk to him. Closer agreed. He paused the book launch press conference and went to the meeting point. "You've carried out a perfect revenge. What more do you want?" "I have felt your pain. What should I do to end all of this?" "The only one who can end this is you. I swear on the memory of my daughter that if you die, nothing will happen to Anna." In the end, Lucy chose to sacrifice herself to end Closer's revenge. Her death bought safety for Anna, but she could never have imagined what Anna's life would become after she died. Living with a man old enough to be her father, living with the man who killed her entire family. But she would never know the secret.